Okay, the next question that you've sent in to me to ask me to tune into and see what if I can put my psychic eyes onto says this. It says, will South Africa face a civil war with escalating attacks on white farmers and political unrest, especially given its ties with China, Russia, and Iran? Well, that's quite an interesting question, a tough one to cover, really, in many respects, because I know that South Africa does have its troubles. But my feelings, and I'll give you the full predictions, I'll give you a list of predictions at the end of this, but my general sort of feeling is this, that I think a full scale civil war, as you're kind of talking about there, I feel certainly at the moment is unlikely, certainly in the near term, as it were. And I don't feel, although the country, and I know this for a fact because I've done quite a few readings for people in South Africa, and particularly many of the white population there do live in fear of their life. Some of them, and some of the readings I've give do seem to suggest that. So South Africa does face serious crime, a sporadic sort of political unrest, and there's a lot of heated rhetoric, I believe, over there. But my feeling is that nonetheless, despite all this, I don't think there's going to be another big mass killing episode. Not in the immediate, so not in the 2025. I'm not saying that won't happen in the future. In South Africa, there could be a quite serious mass killing episode in the years to head. But right now, in 2025, I think that's not going to happen. Though, like I say, I feel it could happen in the longer term future. And also, obviously, the people I talk to sometimes fear this idea of white genocide. There's been a lot of dreadful farm murders and things like that. And when they happen, they are obviously horrific and they do hit the press, and even the international news sometimes hears about it. But it's obviously a small fraction of the many thousands of crimes that happen in South Africa. So I don't feel it's exclusively an attack on white races, as it were, because you asked in your question about white farmers. So it's not an attack exclusively an attack on them. It's like any resource is going to be attacked by people that want to steal it. And so I don't feel it's an actual wave of public unrest that wants to just attack the white farmers, like happened in Rhodesia, which was really encouraged by the government in that place. And I feel with South Africa, the political landscape there has kind of stabilized since they had their elections in May 2024, I think it was. And my feeling is that there is a bit more of a sense of unity in the country. But obviously there's always the background fear of what's going on in the background, because yes, you do have the influences of China, Russia, in Iran there, don't you? Because you're part of the BRICS membership. So those influences are obviously going to be there with planned naval drills and things like that going on. But it doesn't, to me, feel that all that points necessarily to an internal civil war. So I don't feel it will deteriorate into a civil war. So I'm saying civil war, in my feeling about this, is improbable, but lots of social unrest and violence, yes, is likely. And whether you can ever overcome that is questionable. But I feel that the alignment of South Africa, particularly with its getting involved with BRICS, is something that is imminent and can create some internal conflict, I feel, within the country. So these are my main predictions that I feel I want to make for South Africa. So in the short term, I foresee South Africa gradually deteriorating into sporadic political unrest. There will be some violence, accompanied by increased crime and a lot of social unrest. This will come, and I feel it will come particularly towards the end of 2026, but it will not result in all-out civil war. Will South Africa go the way of Rhodesia? So I feel there's a chance to succeed. Start all those again. So my first prediction is that in the short term, I foresee South Africa gradually deteriorating into sporadic political unrest and violence, accompanied by an increase in crime and social unrest. This will come towards the end of 2026. It'll be a sporadic thing, on and off, but it will not result in all-out civil war. I also predict that South Africa will not go the way of Rhodesia. I feel it has a chance to succeed, particularly the fact that strong Christian views are still in South Africa. It has a democracy, and unlike Europe, it does not have to contend with Sharia law. So in the years to come, I see a strong sort of black man. He had he had a hat on of some sort, right? In the vision I had for him, and I felt like he was a strong black leader of some sort. And he had. I was getting a feeling of a man that had very, very strong Christian views, but these weren't the sort of Christian views that were exclusive of others, you know, that push people out and say you're an enemy because you're not a Christian. They felt like there was a sense of inclusivity to this person's views. And this is a man that I don't think we've seen on the world stage yet, but I feel he's going to have a very strong influence on the politics of South Africa. And we'll see a much stronger government rallying around his views. Now, I don't know what party he's in, or whether this is perhaps even a completely new party. It's an individual that arises out of the ashes of South Africa, as it were. He definitely felt like it was a black man that did this. And people will compare him to Nelson Mandela. Now, this is in some years ahead. I don't see this as just around the corner, because I do feel that South Africa will continue to have quite a lot of decline in law and order, that there will be more and more need to bring draconian rules and law into place to keep the country under control and stop it boiling over. But it's like there's this man with good humanitarian values who is very intelligent and can unite all sides. And much, much later on, I also feel maybe in 2030 or something like that, I was getting the feeling of round about that time. I also get a sense that Elon Musk, having sort of made further moves with his businesses and so forth, will actually form a sort of consortium of business people who will help South Africa. I feel it's like he'll turn back to where his roots came from, and help to reboot its economy in the long term, and establish a really solid democracy. So with your question about, you know, China, Russia and Iran and BRICS and things like that, if I'm seeing something like that, it would suggest to me that the South Africa in the further future, maybe 2030, maybe it's beyond, I'm not sure of my dates with this, but somewhere along the line, South Africa may return its alliances more to what we would call the West, I suppose, and economic alliances with Europe and America and so forth. And somehow I felt Musk and other independent businesses would help that process happen. It's like they bring it back. I when I said all this, I was, because I get a lot of this in meditation sometimes, and I saw like green roots, green shoots coming out through a blackened soil, which also gave me a feeling that there could be big fires in South Africa at some stage too, some very big fires, because I felt as if this had a literal feeling of some environmental issues with South Africa in due course as well. So those are some of the main things. And I think when we look at South Africa, actually, South Africa is going through very similar things to what Europe and the UK are going through at the moment, haven't we? We've got divisions, cultural divisions, that seem to be almost impossible to heal. South Africa's divisions come from its history. We've got things like apartheid and the land struggles and deep senses of inequality from the past. Europe's now got similar type of things. Europe's divisions come from today's mass migrations, for example, don't they? And cultural clashes. So the root causes may differ, but the challenges are very much the same in many ways. How do you build unity out of diversity? This is the worldwide problem. It's interesting how it's in different forms in nearly every country in the world at the moment. And if fairness and respect are missing, then division grows, doesn't it? And unrest follows, whether it's in Johannesburg or in Paris. Anyway, we've got to address these same issues. And one of my feelings is that there's going to be spiritual things that are going to help to bind these things together. So when I was tuning into South Africa, maybe there's some bigger thing going on in the world, some bigger spiritual awakening happening. And it takes its form in countries in different ways. And I feel in South Africa, it will take very much a Christian sort of form that brings it to its redemption, I suppose you could say. Other countries, it might be different forms, different religions in different ways. It's I get a sense of like a universal spirituality that's opening in the world. And actually, there's quite some interesting stuff in the Naadis about this too, which I'll share with you later when I got more information. Okay, that's South Africa. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show this week, and thank you, of course, to all the patrons who've sent their questions in. If you want to become a patron or a YouTube member, do have a look in the description below. But of course, the big news from my point of view this week, certainly, is that this week is the launch of the new Craig's Oracle. That's an artificial intelligence oracle. You might think I've got no intelligence, and artificial version might be a bit odd, but no, we've got the AI oracle is launched, and it is really exciting. So joking aside, it's not really like a psychic. Or a medium. I kind of explain a bit of that as you enter the site, but it does read the oracles. So it uses synchronicity. It uses all the techniques that the ancients have used, and we brought together all the ancient knowledge and all the modern AI knowledge and brought it together, and then put you in front of it, and it learns from you, and it interprets the oracles in terms of what it knows about you. So the more you work with it, the more it gets to know you and your family and your interests and all the rest of it, and it becomes quite mind-boggling, particularly as you progress with it. So have a look in the description below, and it will give you some a link to the new Craig's oracle.com, where you can learn all about this new very, very exciting new development. I don't think there's anybody out there that's done anything quite like this yet, and we're developing it all the time. So if you take out a subscription, you'll be able to come along with us on this incredible, magical and intriguing journey. Okay, well, have a look at that in the description below. And don't forget, give us that thumbs up and have a look at some of these other videos too, because particularly if you've watched the short version of the show today, you'll be able to link on to the main show in the videos coming up on the screen now. And also you can link to the website, of course, and have a look at readings and the rest of it, and all some more background work about what Jane and I have done. So anyway, once again, thank you for joining. Thank you for giving me that thumbs up. Thank you for subscribing, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.